Virgin Trains East Coast was supposed to be the comeback story, a bold private sector revival of Britain's most prestigious main line, linking London with Yorkshire, the North East, and Scotland. Instead, it became one of the shortest and most controversial franchises in modern railway history. The story begins in 2015, when Virgin Trains East Coast took over the intercity East Coast route from the publicly run East Coast operator. It was a joint venture, 90% owned by Stagecoach, 10% by the Virgin Group, and it came with big promises. The winning bid pledged an eye-watering £3.3 billion in premium payments to the government by 2023. Confidence was high. The East Coast Main Line was busy, iconic, and commercially attractive. What could possibly go wrong? At first, things looked promising. Virgin brought with it strong branding, refreshed interiors, and a renewed focus on customer experience. The classic intercity trains, the high-speed trains, and the intercity 225s were refurbished, cleaned up, and given a distinctive red and white livery. To many passengers, the railway felt better. Service levels improved too. New direct links were added to places like Stirling and Sunderland. Saturday timetables were expanded. There was almost a half-hourly service between London and Edinburgh. And for the first time in years, Morpeth gained better long-distance connections. Virgin also leaned heavily into heritage. Named trains like the Flying Scotsman and the Highland Chieftain were proudly promoted, tapping into the deep history of the route. But behind the scenes, the numbers were already starting to unravel. Passenger growth failed to meet expectations. Revenue came in below forecasts, and the enormous franchise payments due to the government quickly became unsustainable. By mid-2017, Stagecoach admitted the operation had already lost around £200 million. Despite trains being full and services running, the business model simply didn't work. Virgin and Stagecoach argued that the government hadn't delivered its side of the bargain. Planned infrastructure upgrades were delayed, and crucially, the new Azuma trains, the future of the route, were running late. Those trains, part of the Intercity Express programme, had been unveiled by Virgin and branded Azuma, meaning East in Japanese. They were meant to transform the line, but they never carried a single passenger under Virgin Trains East Coast. The government saw things very differently. Transport Secretary Chris Grayling insisted the problem wasn't the railway, it was the bid. In his view, Stagecoach and Virgin had simply overestimated growth and overbid to win the franchise, encouraged by a system that rewarded optimism over realism. The truth, as ever, lay somewhere in between. What made matters worse was the symbolism. This was the third time the East Coast franchise had collapsed early due to financial failure. Public patience was wearing thin. Then came the controversies. In 2016, a video of Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn sitting on the floor of a Virgin train exploded across the media. Virgin released CCTV footage claiming he had walked past empty seats. Corbyn disputed the interpretation. The row, quickly dubbed Traingate, became a national debate about rail capacity, class, and honesty. Industrial relations didn't help either. Disputes over driver-only operation, redundancies, and pay led to strike threats and walkouts. While some were resolved at the last minute, the atmosphere was tense and fragile. By early 2018, the end was unavoidable. The government brought the termination date forward. In June 2018, just over 3 years after it began, Virgin Trains East Coast ceased to exist. The East Coast Main Line passed into public hands once again, under London North Eastern Railway, a government-owned operator of last resort. Ironically, the very trains Virgin had launched, the Azumas, finally entered service under LNER in 2019, carrying on the branding but not the company. Virgin Trains East Coast had been profitable in day-to-day operation. Trains ran, passengers travelled, but the franchise model collapsed under the weight of unrealistic expectations. Its legacy is a cautionary one, a reminder that branding can't fix broken economics, that prestige routes still need honest forecasting, and that Britain's railways, especially the East Coast, resist easy solutions. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most dramatic chapters of modern British rail history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the rails, past, present, and forgotten.